What's up guys, Tearless here with the second part of the Fury Warrior overview, looking at the talents that are available to a Fury Warrior in Legion, World of Warcraft Legion. We have to go through both the regular PvE talents that everyone knows about and the new PvP talents that will be coming in Legion that will kind of grant a little bit more flexibility for the development team to actually balance classes in PvP. They're going to be mostly doing that through the PvP talents, as opposed to trying to fight with PvE over how classes are balanced. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at both of them and see how either they augment abilities or they granted new abilities. So going straight into it, we're going to look at the base talents first. You'll notice things are very different. Almost every talent tree got pretty much blown up. There are a few common entities. You can already see Bladestorm, Dragon Roar on there, Double Time. But for the most part, most of the talent trees have been changed across the board for all of the classes. So, going into the 15 tier, first we have War Machine. It's a passive that killing a target grants you 30% haste and 30% movement speed for 10 seconds. The second one is Endless Rage. Your auto attack generates 30 additional rage. And then your third one is Fresh Meat. Bloodthirst has a 30% increased critical strike chance against targets above 80% health. Most of these, I guess, are rage based. Haste, damage. It's going to be up to the theory crafters to decide which one's going to give you more of a DPS boost, but I kind of like that you have a lot of options there. The second is going to be, it's kind of a mix of two tiers. You have Storm, all of these you should recognize. First being Double Time, which increases the number of charges you have by 1 and reduces its cooldown by 3 seconds. That means it's a 17-second cooldown for charges, and you also get 2 of them. The important thing to note compared to the old Double Time is that the restriction on energy, not energy, rage generation from charge is not on this one, so you're gonna get rage generation on both of them. Just to show right here, as you can see, I got my rage there and I got double rage there, so both rages appear. That is not the way it used to be. It used to be like you had 12 seconds before that rage would come up, and that's not the case anymore. Stormbolt is exactly the same, comes in the exact same way. I believe it's the same range as well. No, it's slightly less. It's about 10 yards less, but otherwise it is the same cooldown. Shockwave, 40-second cooldown, basically functions the exact same way that it does on live as well. So those two talents are very familiar. That entire row should be familiar to Fury Warriors. In the third tier, we have brand new ones except for Avatar. Everyone recognizes Avatar. It has been brought way up into the tree, so now you get it at 45 as opposed to 90. So that is, basic transform into a Colossus. Nothing really changes there. You have Outburst. Berserker Rage now causes Enrage. So as I mentioned before in the first video, Berserker Rage no longer kind of created that enrage effect that it used to. This will bring that back into it if you would like to. That is what Outburst is there for. The third one is Wrecking Ball. If you notice, I had several procs when I was playing in the first part of this video, in the first part of this Fury Warrior 2-part series, and that's because of this Wrecking Ball, which is your attacks have a chance to make your Whirlwind cost no rage and deal 200% increased damage. There are a lot of talents for Fury Warriors that are just about cleaving and doing a lot of AoE damage. I mean, you'll even see it throughout the rest of this talent tree. It's all over the place. I do not believe Avatar has changed at all. We can take a look real here quick. Just there, a little bit bigger, nice and stone-like. There's your Avatar. On the 60 tier, we have Furious Charge. Charge also increases the healing from your next Bloodthirst by 300%. So I talked about how Victory Rush was removed from the game. I believe it's called Victory Rush. I'm having a lapse in yes, Victory Rush. Having a lapse there in the memory, but Victory Rush was removed for Fury Warriors. This is one of the things that can replace that. You charge in and you bloodthirst right away. And that, is a lot. Can possibly occur a whole lot more than just having a regular victory rush on your side. The next one is Bounding Stride. Reduces the cooldown of your Heroic Leap by 15 seconds, so bring it in line with what Heroic Leap is on live, 30 seconds. And Heroic Leap now increases your run speed by 70% for 3 seconds after you land. So that's a good choice there. And then the third one is Warpaint. You now take only 20% increased damage from Enrage. I mentioned in the first video that Enraged you will take 30% increased damage now when you're enraged. It used to be that you didn't. You had all these other effects increasing your damage and getting you some rage generation. That's all been wiped out, and now you just get 100% increased attack speed, but you also take 30% increased damage. This will lessen it down to 20%. So buff there if you want to take that. I personally am a fan of the Furious Charge though. 75 tier, we have Massacre. Execute critical strikes, reduce the rage cost of your next rampage by 100%. In case you've forgotten, rampage costs a ton, 85 rage. It is your, your dump. Basically your rage dump. So having the ability for execute critical strikes to reduce your next rampage allows you to execute more, but also get off the sick damage of a rampage. So it's something to consider there. Frothing Berserker. When you reach 100 rage, your damage is increased by 10% and your movement is increased by 30% for 6 seconds. I don't know how I feel about this, because I feel like if you're... I guess you could hit 100 rage and then immediately spend, and that could be, that's kind of the skill cap of it, is like you constantly hitting 100%, but then immediately having something set up to burn that rage so that you're not, just wasting rage generation there. That's something that you could be considering, and it'll take more of a high skill cap when it comes to that. Last item here is your good old tried and true Bladestorm, and it looks amazing now, so I'm going to show you the updated Bladestorm right here. Going to go ahead and use it. And just like all the other effects, including Whirlwind, they've just done an amazing job at upgrading the look of these abilities. Really a great job. So the 90 tier, we have Meat Grinder. Your Whirlwind causes your next rampage to strike up to 4 additional targets for 50% damage. I was mentioning earlier in the talent tree how a lot of the talents are focused on you dealing additional damage to different people. So you have Whirlwind causing your rampage to deal additional damage. There's another ability that causes your Bloodthirst to deal additional damage, and it just continues to stack on top of one another. All of these different abilities interacting with one another. It's Whirlwind that causes your Bloodthirst to attack 4 different additional targets. So, you think about it, you have Meat Grinder. Whirlwind causes both your Rampage and your Bloodthirst to attack 4 different targets. So that's something that you can consider if you want to really go AoE heavy. The second ability here is Frenzy. Furious Slash increases your haste by 5% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. And then the last one here is going to be Inner Rage. Raging Blow no longer requires Enrage and deals 100% increased damage, but has a 4.5 second cooldown. Remember that Raging Blow generates rage as opposed to getting rid of rage. So this is something you may want to consider. You will have that constant source of generating rage just like your Bloodthirst, instead of having to wait for your Enrage, and then you'll be able to burn it all when you get the Rampage up. So there's something to consider there, but you'll have to be competing against the AoE ability of Meat Grinder, or if Frenzy ends up being a popular talent to take, you may want to take that. Especially since you will be wanting to use Furious Slash to at least get it up your crit chance. If you remember, Furious Strike is the new ability that increases your crit strike for Bloodthirst, excuse me. You maybe end up using Frenzy 3 times consistently to get the Bloodthirst crit for sure, so that it can lead into the other abilities. So I mentioned at the beginning of the very first video about how all these abilities, like you have less abilities, but they're all interconnecting with one another to kind of raise the skill cap of what is required in Legion, and that's what you're seeing right here with the talent tree. The last tier is, you recognize one of them is Dragon Roar, but it is quite different from what it is now. Well, not quite different, but pretty different from what it is now. First is Carnage, though. Reduces the cost of Rampage by 20 Rage. This is huge because Rampage costs 85 Rage. And if you're able to bring it down to 65 Rage, you're going to be able to do a lot of damage very quickly, which is pretty good. Though you got to understand that it also cancels out, maybe doing things like Frothing Berserker, in which you're trying to hit that 100 Rage gap and then dump it quickly. So, kind of trade-offs there. The second ability is Reckless Abandon Battle Cry. It generates 100 Rage. If you have forgotten, Battle Cry is this new ability down here. Let loose a Battle Cry, granting 100% increased critical strike chance. So if you add 100 Rage into that, then you can, pop a Rampage and do some really serious damage. The last here is Dragon Roar, which you roar explosively, dealing a lot of damage, and then increasing all damage you deal by 20% for 6 seconds. So that's different from the old Dragon Rage. The old Dragon Rage was basically a knockdown, a knockback, and a lot of damage, and it was in the same tier as Shockwave and Stormbolt. This time around they're making it damage and a damage increase to kind of bring it in line with Reckless Abandon and Carnage. And it also has a new effect. It looks really nice, and it's only a 20-second cooldown, so that's one of the reasons I kind of like it. So you have a little bit over a 25% uptime on this ability, closing in on around a 30% uptime on this ability. So go ahead and use it right here. You can see right there just a little bit of a change in the special effects. They really did go through and they wanted to update all of the visual effects and sound effects for the abilities in this game. So with that, we need to take a look at the honor talents, the PvP talent tree. Almost everything in this tree is passive. I was just looking at it before I went in. Almost everything is passive. Your first tier, once again, just so you know, as you level up in PvP, it works like Call of Duty. You work your way all the way to 50, and then you can prestige. You start off at level 1 with Gladiators Medallion, and then you work your way down, and like level 4, level 8 or so, I don't know the exact numbers, but you level up, and you level these abilities all the way to 50, and then at 50 you get the last one all the way at the bottom. And then you can choose to prestige and lose all these abilities and start back at 1, or you can just stay there, so it's up to you. So this first tier, we have Gladiators Medallion. Honorable Medallion is kind of the base medallion you get, and it's your PvP trinket. And Honorable Medallion is a 3-minute cooldown, whereas this Gladiators Medallion will be a 2-minute cooldown, so you kind of have a choice between the two. Adaptation, all loss of control effects with a duration of 5 seconds or more will activate your Honorable Medallion spell, but it will cause it to incur a 60-second cooldown. I kind of like I'm starting, the more and more I read through these talents and I get to each character and I read through the talents, I'm starting to like Adaptation more than Gladiators Medallion, just because of the 60-second cooldown, automatic cooldown. And it's something that, but some people like more control over their characters, so they may just go with the Gladiators Medallion. Though, you could take the third one, which is, it replaces your Honorable Medallion, but the duration of incoming crowd control effects is reduced by 25%. I'm not quite sure who would take that, maybe tanks and tanks and healers, but I'm not quite sure. I would say more tanks than healers, but we could see, I don't know, we'll see. In the second tier, we have Hardiness, which is well above 80% health. You take 20% less damage. You have Reinforced Armor. Health is increased by 10%. And then you have Sparring. Physical melee attacks have a 20% chance to be blunted, dealing 50% reduced damage. Now, I'm not sure if this is the same across the board for melee classes, but this is the same stuff that not combat rogues. Outlaw rogues had it in their second tier, and it could be a way of Blizzard getting a tier to globally reduce melee classes if they need to, and then they'll be able to have the same thing for range classes. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but as I get into more of the talent trees, I'll know if that's looking more like what they have planned it, at least for this second tier. The first tier is always going to be this trinket tier, basically. In the third tier, we have Deathrow. You can now execute targets at or below 25% health, so that's a 5% health increase in when you can start using execute. There's Blood Hunt. When within 10 yards of enemies at execute range, your movement speed is increased by 15%, and all snares are suppressed for 5 seconds. That's pretty cool. People trying to get away, not going to happen to you, which is pretty cool. There's Death Sentence. This is the third. Execute now has a 15-yard range, causing you to charge to targets when used. Honestly, that sounds more fun than Blood Hunt. And this entire row is based on Execute, so that could be a lot of fun. Just having like your own little mini charge with Execute. That would now I have to go try this in PvP. The PvP queues are kind of long on the beta realm, so I don't necessarily go in for each class, especially when there's nothing but passives for this one. But that's something I'm gonna have to try now. Rage Machine. It's a passive. Non-periodic attacks against you generate 5 rage. There's Spell Reflection. As I mentioned in the first video, Spell Reflection has been removed for Fury Warriors and Arms Warriors. It is a prot pally only ability. However, it has been brought back for the Fury Warrior here for you to use in PvP. So if you like using it in PvP, this is where you're going to pick it up. However, you have to kind of compete against Rage Machine, and then this one, Ready for Battle, which Rage gained from charge increased by 15. Now it's already increased by 15 from your talent, your artifact weapon. So increasing it by another 15 means your charge generates 50 rage, which means with double charge you can get 100 rage in no time at all. So it may be to the point where Ready for Battle is just going too far, like you're just generating way too much rage off of a charge. But then again, it may be able to, give you that opportunity to put off that instant burst on a rampage down here, to really knock down someone really quickly. So it's kind of a trade-off. We'll see how it actually plays out in PvP. In this 5th tier, we have Barbarian. Increases the number of charges of Heroic Leap by 2, and increases the damage done by Heroic Leap by 200%. I'm not a big fan of this because dealing damage with Heroic Leap isn't necessarily the most reliable source of damage. So I like having a second charge of Heroic Leap, but I don't really like increasing the damage on it. Like that part of the talent isn't really appealing to me. And then remember, there also is the regular talent that can bring that Heroic Leap down to 30 seconds. So you basically have 2 charges at 30 seconds. So something to think about. Battle Trance. After you Raging Blow the same target twice, you go into a trance, causing you to regenerate 4% of your health and generate 5 rage every 3 seconds for 12 seconds. Using Raging Blow on a new target will cancel this effect. This can be very useful. I would not suggest taking the, I believe it's Inner Rage talent, which puts the cooldown on Raging Blow. But this can be probably useful if you enrage, and then you can literally spam a couple of Raging Blows afterwards, and then you start regenerating your health and getting more generation of rage out of it. So that may be something to look for in PvP. Last one in this tier is Thirst for Battle, and his Bloodthirst clears all snares and increases your movement speed for 15% by 2 seconds. So that just even more validates Bloodthirst as not only a way to bring back your health a little bit, but also get you out of some sticky situations as a Fury Warrior. On the last tier, we have Slaughterhouse. When you use Bloodthirst, the damage is increased by 10% and the cooldown is reduced by 1 second for every 10% health the target is missing. Using this plus Thirst for the Battle may turn your Bloodthirst into a really nice option, especially since the critical chance can start going up, and then especially if it's comboed off of a Whirlwind where you're dealing AoE damage, that's something to look into. Though not necessarily are you looking for too much AoE damage unless you're cooped up in a room in PvP. There is Endless Rage. Increases the duration of your enrage effect by 2 seconds, and your Raging Blow refreshes the duration of your enrage. Just another option there for Fury Warriors. And then the last one is Death Wish. Oh, I will say about Endless Rage, your enrage effect, Raging Blow can be pretty much spammed. Once again, this is something that you don't want the inner rage to be paired with, because you can spam Raging Blow. It does, I believe, more damage. It does less damage, but it will generate, and then you'll be able to continually build that up. So it's, there are talents that you can really synergize in both the PvP talent tree and the regular talent tree to build up something. We've already seen it with Bloodthirst, and we're starting to see it a little bit with Raging Blow. It depends on how you want to do it. So if you want to keep building, if you want to keep Enrage up, if you want more sustainability, you can go that Bloodthirst kind of route. Whereas if you want to keep Enrage up almost indefinitely, well, I wouldn't say indefinitely, but for a very much longer time, you're able to do it through Endless Rage. The last is Death Wish. This should look somewhat, I believe, familiar. I can't remember how long ago we've seen it. It may have been, it's been a long time since I've played Warrior. But increases your damage by 5% at the cost of your health. Stacks up to 5 times. So, I mean, there you go. You increase your damage 25%, but you will lose 25% of your health. So, something to think about. It's literally playing into the Fury play style. You deal more damage, but you at the same time are going to be seemingly taking more damage because you have a lower health pool. So that is everything with PvP talents. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really, Warriors have a lot of options. I know they got gutted. Fury got gutted. Trust me, every class got gutted. We were saying this in Warlords of Draenor. It's even more so this time around, but they did a fantastic job of making sure that the abilities interact with one another, so your skill will be rewarded. It's not just bloated with all these abilities that just does X damage, does X damage, does X damage, and then you just have to know which one, goes on the priority list. Instead, you need to be paying attention to your rotation and so forth and what you should be doing. So, that is everything for Fury Warriors. This is the part 2 video. If you want to see the part 1 video, go check it out. It's the abilities and looking at the brand new artifact weapon. Otherwise, that is everything. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Tearless out.